Feds blocked worst case Gulf of Mexico oil spill figures. The Obama administration blocked efforts by government scientists to tell the public just how bad the Gulf oil spill could become, and made other missteps that raised questions about its competence and candor during the crisis, according to a commission appointed by the president to investigate the disaster. In documents released on Wednesday, the National Oil Spill Commission staff describes not an incidental public relations problem by the White House in the wake of the April 20th accident or disaster. Among other things, the report says the administration made erroneous early estimates of the spill's size, and President Barack Obama's senior energy advisor went on national TV and mischaracterized a government analysis by saying it showed most of the oil was gone. The analysis actually said it could still be there. In other words, the oil is not really gone. It's sitting on the ocean floor, or still in the water. And oil, natural gas, methane, or methane hydrates are still coming up from the seafloor or the seabed all around the blown out well. They have changed the nature of the oil spill, and this could be going on for a very long time. By initially underestimating the amount of oil flow, and then at the end of the summer appearing to underestimate the amount of oil remaining in the Gulf, the federal government created the impression that it was either not fully competent to handle the spill or not fully candid with the American people about the scope of the problem. The report says the administration disputed the commission findings, saying senior government officials were clear with the public about what the worst case flow rate could be, or so they say. In a statement, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration Chief and the White House Budget Director pointed out that in early May, Interior Secretary Ken Salazar and Coast Guard Admiral Thad Allen told the public that the worst case scenario could be more than 100,000 barrels a day, or 4.2 million gallons. For the first time, the documents, which are preliminary findings by the panel's staff, show that the White House was directly involved in controlling the message as it struggled to convey that it, not BP, was in charge of responding to what eventually became the biggest offshore oil spill in U.S. history. Citing interviews with government officials, the report reveals that in late April or early May, the White House Budget Office denied a request from NOAA to make public its worst case estimate of how much oil could spew from the blown out well. Unified Command, the government team in charge of the spill response, also was discussing the possibility of making the numbers public. The report says the White House Budget Office has traditionally been a clearinghouse for administration domestic policy. The report shows the political process was in charge, and science really does not have the role that was touted, said the Dean of Environmental Studies at Louisiana State University. The explosion in the Gulf of Mexico killed 11 workers, spewed at least 206 million gallons of oil from the damaged oil well, and sank the Deepwater Horizon drilling rig. BP's drilling permit for the well originally estimated the worst case scenario to be a leak of 6.8 million gallons per day. In late April, just after the spill began, the Coast Guard and NOAA received an updated worst case estimate of 2.7 million to 4.6 million gallons per day. And while those figures were used as a basis for the government's response to the oil spill, they appeared on an internal Coast Guard situation report and on a dry erase board in NOAA's Seattle War Room. They were never announced to the public, according to the report. However, they were in fact announced as news stories from May 2nd to May 5th, although the figures received little attention at the time. For more than a month after the explosion, government officials were telling the public that the whale was releasing some 210,000 gallons per day. In early August, in its final estimate of the spill's flow, the government said it was gushing 2.6 million gallons per day, close to the worst case predictions. The documents also criticized Carol Browner, director of the White House Office of Energy and Climate Change Policy, saying that during a series of morning show appearances on August 4th, she misrepresented the findings of a federal analysis of where the oil went and incorrectly portrayed it as a scientific assessment that was peer-reviewed by inside and outside experts. I think it's also important to note that our scientists have done an initial assessment, and more than 3/4 of the oil is gone, Browner said on NBC's Today Show. But the analysis never said it was gone. According to the commission, it said it was dispersed, dissolved, or evaporated, meaning it could still be there. And while the NOAA administrator was more cautious in her remarks at a news conference at the White House later that day, the commission staff accuses the two senior officials of contributing to the perception that the government's findings were more exact than they actually were. In other words, they really weren't telling the whole truth. Florida State University professor Ian McDonald, who has repeatedly clashed with NOAA and the Coast Guard over the size of the oil spill, the existence of underwater plumes, and oil in the seafloor, said he felt gratified by the report. From the beginning, there was a contradiction between discoveries and concerns by academic scientists and statements by NOAA, McDonald said in an interview with the AP at the oil spill conference. And he said it is still going on. McDonald and Georgia Tech scientist Joseph Montoya said NOAA is at it again with statements saying there's no oil in ocean floor sediments. But a University of Georgia science cruise, which Montoya was on, found ample evidence of oil on the Gulf floor. Like I say, oil, natural gas, methane is still coming up from the seafloor or the seabed all around the blown out whale. No, it's not over yet. This is an ongoing, continuing, rolling disaster or catastrophe, and could be going on for many years. And all these are more signs of the end times, transition days, which is a continuing process. In other words, all systems are things that must change quickly or rapidly, and for the better, because it's about what kind of world are we leaving to the future generations. Again, Revelation chapter 8, verse 8. And the second angel sounded, and as it were, a great mountain burning with fire was cast into the sea, and the third part of the sea became as blood. Revelation chapter 16, verse 3. And the second angel poured out his vial upon the sea, and it became as the blood of a dead man, and every living soul died in the sea. 4. And the third angel poured out his vial upon the rivers and fountains of waters, and they became as blood. 5. And I heard the angel of the waters say, Thou art righteous, O Lord, which art, and was, and shall be, because thou hast judged thus. 6. For they have shed the blood of saints and prophets, and thou hast given them blood to drink, for they are worthy. 7. And I heard another out of the altar say, Even so, Lord God Almighty, true and righteous are thy judgments. And yes, it's time for all prophecy to be fulfilled. And it's happening day by day all around the world. And these are more signs.